Welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore, and technician Adam Littlefield. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other questions during the show, go and leave an open mic inside the WDBO app. You can also check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, that means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, David Leavitt and Adam Littlefield.
All right, Greg. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. So excited to be here with you on either a Saturday or Sunday, depending on what day you are listening, because we air every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. And also we do a podcast. This show turns into a podcast, I should say. And you can listen to this show in its entirety and all the past shows we've done probably for almost the last 3 years by going to refreshcomputers.net, clicking on that podcast link right there, and you'll be able to listen to, again, this show or many shows with lots of interesting topics like today's show, right, Adam?
Definitely, yeah. We have a bunch of shows on there about just, everything I can really think of as far as tech goes nowadays.
Well, we try not to. I made this statement last week, and I've often thought of it, but I never really said it until last week. And so I'll say it again this week is, the show is, we want it to be interesting, and we want to have topics that, technology-wise that our listeners are interested in, and basically not make it like an hour-long infomercial. And, of course, we will, get into some of our our products. That's what helps pay for the show. We don't ask for you to help pay for the show. I mean, you're listening to the show. We hope it's interesting enough for you to tune in. So today's show is about Intel again. Yeah. So, and I like your notes here, Adam, your show notes, and Intel bailout 2.0.
Well, that's kind of what it is. We had the U.S. government purchase a large stake in Intel. I believe it was 9%, 10%, around there.
Well, yeah. In other words, you and I.
Yeah. And now Nvidia, another big name in processors and in tech development, actually purchased their own 5% stake into Intel.
And when we're saying things like 10% and 5%, they sound like small interests, but the value behind that interest is massive, right? We're talking billions and billions of dollars at this point.
So the 5% stake you had valued at what, $5 billion?
About $5 billion,
About
yes.
$5 billion that Nvidia is putting into Intel. Intel, we've mentioned this before about Intel. They're in, serious doo-doo. I mean, they're in big trouble.
Yeah.
They, for a technology company, things always change. And especially in technology, things are advancing. The telephone company I used to work for many, many, many years ago was the largest manufacturer of telephone equipment in the world. It was Nortel Networks. And they went bankrupt because of technology changing, and they couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
And so this could be the case with Intel, and I just hope that NVIDIA's investment into Intel can revive them. And I much prefer a company investing into another company instead of the taxpayer investing into a company. The whole bailout of the auto industry was a we suffered through that as taxpayers. And so we don't want to see that happening again. But the technology, let's talk a little bit about the technology that's changing and why it's important and why Intel is suffering like they are. It's because Intel is primarily, manufacturers of computer CPUs, central processing units, right?
Right.
And we've Intel i3, i5, i7 series that we've heard
now
about.
I think they're the Intel Ultra. I think that's what they're now calling their new processors. The
new
15th generation.
15, but it's it's like a 10th generation.
It kind of is, yeah.
Is what it is. So it's they didn't really innovate a whole lot with that new processor. So they're it's hard for them to keep up. And what has happened was with the advent of AI. Nvidia has been making they took the surge, right? And, Intel was poised to do what Nvidia did.
Intel had the idea, Nvidia actually went for it. And I think that's a major thing to kind of focus on is Nvidia, they saw how quickly AI was booming.
Right.
And they really just pushed it into just top gear to really just go right for it so that they were able to be the number one there. Intel could have been there a couple years ago if they really, narrowed down and stuck to it. But I think they kind of got complacent almost being at the top of that CPU production that they didn't think they needed to go further or innovate.
And let's face it, it's such a huge company. It's so hard to steer that ship in a way that's innovative and on track with what the market is doing. And so Nvidia with their GPUs, which is graphical processor units, are taking over. What the CPU would be doing, because on a typical motherboard, let me see if I can get it more in layman terms. On a typical computer motherboard, you have a CPU, and you still have a little chip if it's soldered onto the motherboard. They make better ones too, but you have a GPU that's on the motherboard, and a lot of the onboard GPUs are Intel-based GPUs, right?
And I hate to say it, but they're not really the best.
Well, they're not the best, and that's been the problem.
Yeah.
So so when people want to upgrade the video capabilities of their computer or their laptop, they typically go to an Nvidia GPU because it way outperforms the Intel integrated GPU, and that's what basically think about gaming computers. So what really makes a gaming computer? It's the video card. It's the video chip if it's a laptop that makes it the gaming computer, because it has to be able to process these graphics, these super high resolution graphics, but quickly. So you don't want I don't play video games, but I play wordscapes. That's my game. But I guess if you're in Call of Duty or some of these games where they rely so much on the video processor, you can't be in the middle of shooting somebody, I guess, and then your screen
starts buffering.
starts buffering
Like a YouTube video when your internet cuts out, just freezes.
Now you just got shot.
Yep. And I mean, turn it to Intel's direct, and I mean their direct competitor, AMD. You got AMD that is producing some of right now the best CPUs in the market.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
They also have their own GPU line that's keeping up to snuff with
not
Nvidia.
Bad. The Radeon.
The Radeon cards.
Yeah. And so they're keeping up.
Yeah.
Actually, AMD is kind of surpassing Intel. Not kind of. They are in performance of their CPUs, their central processing units.
Certainly in performance. Maybe not in market integration.
Yeah.
You still see Intel definitely relied upon for business class and things like that. But like you said, if you're at home building your own computer, AMD is usually right at the top of the list for what you're looking to build around.
Yeah, especially just for when you're looking at cost to performance, is AMD just tends to be cheaper in that stance. Intel has more of a name. They are known for, as far back as I can even remember. But as far as like AMD goes, for example, Intel, they've got the name game. And that's what makes them look so much better, when in reality, AMD's processors are just still kicking them out the door every time.
And, and years ago when Intel was becoming super popular, right? So, I remember this because I'm of that age. And so the idea was that computing power would double every 2 or 3 years or something like that and it was happening.
Yeah.
And so it was happening with their CPUs. So Intel was like the market leader and why people were saying that the power of computer processing was doubling every year or 2 years. I forget exactly what it was. But then there was a period of time, I'll go back probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, where that slowed down. It wasn't like it was doubling every year or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It was, doubling like maybe every 4 or 5 or 6, the processing power of a chip. And Intel was still behind that. But, and I think they took it about, I don't want to say this, but it's like almost they took it as far as they could take it, but did they really? Because you always want to believe that there's something better on the horizon, especially with technology. Yeah. Because I think there always is something better on the horizon.
And with how Intel was looking at it back when, when we were looking at maybe 8th, 9th, and 10th generation Intel processors, that's about, about 5 years ago, give or take, we were seeing that the speeds of them, they were hitting a certain speed that you could just not surpass without the thermals, the processor overheating.
Yeah, it would overheat.
And Intel just said, well, that's it. We're going to have to entirely redesign the wheel to get past this.
That's right.
This is as good as it'll be. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but now processors are running, a step above that. And the thermal issues are even now lower than what they were back then.
I guess my input on that would probably be that Intel kind of maybe got a little comfortable. They got a little rested on their laurels with where they were at in the marketplace, where they started as a trailblazer, like Dave mentioned.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, Apple's making their own chips, and you get a group like AMD who's improved so much over the years. It's kind of almost like the space race right now, where SpaceX is taking off where NASA thought that they were done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm not a big fan of Apple computers and laptops. I think most people know that who know me. But, kudos to Apple for realizing how long is their M1 chip came out?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So,
it's revolutionized the way that people are looking at how microprocessors can be developed.
That's right. And so Apple, developed their own CPU to replace the Intel CPUs that they had been putting in their laptops and computers, because guess what? They saw the light.
Yeah.
They could see this coming. And they decided, you know what, we better do something. Mm-hmm. Apple's not a company to rest on their laurels, right?
No.
That's what keeps them going.
They've always tried to be different. They always try to introduce new things, even if it's something that another company's done before. I've seen Apple reuse stuff and call it new, but the way they integrate it is new. So, and the main thing going back on Apple as well, talking from last week's show, is the processors in the new Apple iPhones coming out are actually showing they're outperforming AMD processors almost across the board. And those processors, Apple ones,
desktop AMD, desktop processors.
So you've got a mobile processor that's now performing better than a desktop processor, and the mobile processor, it's a CPU GPU combined. So you've got two chipsets that they've now turned into one full chipset that runs perfectly fine.
Just knowing that is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's Apple.
It is.
Right? That's on Apple. They've done this. And so what I'm a little bit surprised about is, and maybe we'll see this sometime in the near future, Apple, designed these chips, or they had people design them for them, but of course they're still Apple, these processors. And so, why not start introducing them in other manufacturers' things? But that's not Apple's way to go, though.
No, Apple loves their walled garden, and any of their secrets, like this, awesome processor that they have right now, they're gonna hold it close to their chest, because I'm sure they realize they've got a leg up while everybody else is just kind of watching them.
Now, is this cash infusion going to be the catalyst for Intel to get back into that trailblazer style role?
I would hope so, but
I hope so too.
There's a part of me that really, really doubts that this is going to help a whole lot. Intel, we also talked about the problems they have with the last few iSeries chips that they made. And so it was so bad that they just stopped calling it the iSeries, right?
Right.
It was like, 12th and 13th and 14th. Is it 14th?
I think it was 12th and 13th.
Just 12th and 13th.
They were like the trouble children that Intel had, and that really made the road rocky for them. But I'm hoping, honestly, it does kind of just push them, because if Intel does just go the opposite direction, just go straight down the drain, you're losing a lot of competition in the market, and competition is what has been creating all of this progress. Is because whenever you've got two companies trying to do the same thing, it's who can do it first, who can do it better. Well, who can outdo that now? Well, who can outdo that company who's outdoing you? Like, it pushes progress, and I think losing Intel could really hurt technology right now.
It probably could, and all the manufacturers, they still use Intel for their CPUs.
Yeah.
A lot of them. They use AMD also. But for the vast majority of the computers they're manufacturing, they have the Intel chips in them.
It's a trusted name, and people, they want to go with what they can trust.
Absolutely, something that they're comfortable with, the same way that we mentioned maybe Intel got a little comfortable in the marketplace. What do you think? Have you switched over to AMD? Are you someone who's made that transition, or are you sticking strong by Intel? Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. We'd love to hear your responses on that. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore, and technician Adam Littlefield. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. And if you have any other comments during the show, go ahead and leave an open mic using the WDBO app. And now, back to David and Adam.
All right. Thanks, Greg. And thanks again for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. We had a very interesting conversation in the first segment about Intel faltering and the fact that Nvidia is investing a lot of money into them and what all that could mean right now and in the near future. If you missed any of that, listen to the podcast. Go to refreshcomputers.net, click on that podcast link, and you can pick up the whole conversation right there. So we also want to get into a little bit of the Google world. So, Google, Greg, did you just say during the break that they just surpassed what
the 3 trillion mark? So in market cap,
they're the third company.
They're the third company to do that. Yeah.
Who was 1 and 2? I know the one was just recently.
One was Nvidia.
Nvidia, that's right.
And then the other company, I believe. I don't want to misspeak. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's Apple. It might be Apple.
Was Apple?
I was thinking maybe Apple.
Maybe it was Apple. Yeah. And then now Google. And so, but, Google's kind of, well, maybe we do, maybe we don't kind of a company.
we have our search engine, we have our web browser, we have our own phones, but they don't really have much development as far as they go, and they're really good at misleading people, I've been hearing lately.
Well, and that's they just lost a class action lawsuit, a really big one, $425 million, right? So, and the reason was because again, they were found guilty of misrepresenting and misleading users. So if you have a Google account, you have the option to say, turn off your collection of data.
Yeah. Don't collect my data. Don't sell my information.
You can pick all that in your Google account. But, even though you picked it, Google was doing it anyway.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Google, I've always called Google the data-hungry empire. And I've always said it as a joke, but it rings right with that mislead. You have a very clear toggle switch in your settings that says don't collect my data, and you turn that off. Well, in reality, you're actually just telling them to take it anyway still.
Well, this person said, I do not want my data collected. That's data right there.
Yep.
And we'll continue collecting.
That's right. Exactly. And so they were doing that. Now, supposedly, they're saying that was anonymously being collected, but it was still being collected, even though you said that you didn't want it collected.
And that goes for a lot of...
What do you mean anonymously being collected?
That goes for a lot of data collection for me as well, is all these companies say, we'll collect your data, but we anonymize it. Well, what are you doing to anonymize it? Are you still collecting my location, but not collecting my location? Are you collecting my name, my date of birth? Like, what information are you actually anonymizing? No, I don't really know any companies that are actually clear.
Well, that was a whole nother lawsuit 2 years ago. What was collecting your location data?
Oh, that was back in February, I think, right?
February 23. They were storing users' locations when they were telling the users they weren't storing it. And they got caught doing that. And so, I don't know. Google, come on.
There's a lot of companies right now that are misstepping with your personal information like this. And, the biggest one I can think of in the past couple of months right now has been Instagram, where Instagram actually integrated they call it the map sharing, where you can see where all your friends are in the world, and it's enabled by default. So anybody that follows you can see where you are, where you're posting from.
And not an approximation either.
No, it is exact.
It's exact. It's like
no kidding. I didn't hear about that. That's nuts.
Yeah, normally if you're on your Instagram app and you go over to the messages area, at the top it'll say map sharing. And if it doesn't say not sharing, your location's currently being shared through the app. And they never really asked you if you wanted to do that.
So the really bad thing is the fact that it's set to on by default. So if you have an Instagram account, you're sharing your location.
Exactly.
Is that what it is? Unless you go in and turn it off.
And that's fine. In 5 years, you'll be a part of a class action lawsuit, and they'll send you 50 cents in the mail.
Exactly.
That's how that always seems to work.
That's how it works.
You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with technician Adam Littlefield from the Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. And if you have any other comments during the show, go ahead and leave an open mic inside the WDBO app. You can also check out the website at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, Adam Littlefield as we go into our deals segment.
Yes, thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, again, for tuning in to just another episode of Tech Talk. This is our deals segment where we like to go over just some of the super deals that we have in our store right now, and you can view our entire inventory on our website, refreshcomputers.net. All of our inventory there is live, so if you go through, you find a system you want, you can come by in store, ask to see it, we can go ahead and show it to you. Some of them we're still getting through production, so we always have these available in that store, though, so you can get hands-on experience with it, kind of actually feel it and see it, and that's kind of above what you get with most refurbishers now, I believe.
Yeah, so much of it is online based.
Exactly.
Like they don't have an actual retail location. Mm-hmm. You guys operate out of that retail location.
Yes,
that is ground zero for you guys.
We do everything in our location in Longwood. So we go through, we refurbish everything in-house, we test in-house, and we sell right from there. So nothing has to be shipped out. We're not sending stuff to Timbuktu to get something done. All of us in our store are able to repair these machines. We work on them, we refurbish them. So we're super familiar with these machines, and we do a bunch of repairs too because we've just learned so much.
Right, through all those refurbishments, some of those repairs become second nature. I'm sure.
Exactly. So yeah, let me get into some of our deals here. We've got a nice HP Chromebook in the store right now. It's an 11-inch Chromebook, so it's a real nice tiny machine. This is really good for just your basic use, carry around school if you've got just a paper you got to type up real quick, or maybe you've got a kid that's starting in school, they need something that's cheap, that if they just so happen to knock it off their desk in school, it's not going to be the end of the world to use. So we've got that in store right now for just $49.99.
If it falls off the seat on the school bus home, you're not too worried about it. Exactly,
right. And that's the main thing with Chromebooks is they're really good machines to just throw out in the wild and just they go. They're running Chrome OS, they're not running Windows, so they're running a proprietary operating system with it, but everything just works on it. So that's what's nice with these Chromebooks here. Let me get into what I think is one of the better laptop deals we have right now for a Windows 11 laptop. We've got the Dell Latitude 5400, so that's going to be a 14-inch laptop. It's going to be about I can't think of the dimensions off the top of my head right now, but about 14 inches, that's diagonal space. So that's going to give you a nice mix between portability and screen space. So we've got that right now with an i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM with 256 gigabytes of storage for just $319.99. And what makes this system really good in all of our systems is we go through when we refurbish them and we replace what I think is the most important part, the storage drive, the solid state. Most machines right now, that we get in, we go through and just replace the drive because that is the most important thing in the computer. If the drive goes out, that's your data. It's gone. So we take that worry out of anybody's head. We just put a brand new solid state in there straight from the factory, so everything just is working for you. You can trust it's going to be storing your data safely. So we also have another system that's very similar to the Latitude 5400, but this one's made by HP. This is their EliteBook 840G6. So the EliteBook, as far as it goes with HP for their business class, they've got the ProBook, they've got the EliteBook, and then they've got the ZBook. So the ZBook is your high-end workstation that can do basically anything you need it to. The EliteBook is their premium commercial grade system. So this one's got a nice metal body on it. It's a nice brushed metal body, so it's got that nice cold texture to it for metal. You're not holding plastic.
Right.
You're not. It's not going to feel like it's going to fall apart on you like some consumer grade HPs do. I've seen some before that you just go to pick up the HP Pavilion, for example, and I've seen the entire bottom chassis just twist as you pick it up. So yeah, this EliteBook, it's built nice and strong. i7 processor, that 16 gigs of RAM, and that new 256 gigabyte solid state drive with Windows 11 Pro for just $329.99. And that's a super, super deal for that machine. I believe that one goes for about $900 brand new. So, you're getting a super deal on that one. And maybe you need something that's going to be just a little larger for you. I know I've had some customers before that they need a laptop that's got large screen space. They need a full-size keyboard. So on most of these 13, 14-inch laptops, you get what's called the 10 keyless keyboard, where that number pad on the right-hand side, that they can't fit that in there. They just kind of cut it off. It's just cut off. It disappears. So on this model, the Dell Latitude 3520, this is a 15-inch laptop. It's got that full-size keyboard on it. This, I would say, is one of the best laptops we have right now as far as Dell goes. Just because the 3520, it's an 11th generation system, so it's not too old at all. And again, that 15-inch size, it's going to give you the best screen real estate, but also portability. I'm sure some of our listeners out there, you probably have, say, a 17-inch laptop, and if you're familiar with it, which I'm sure you are, the weight of that thing is just you probably couldn't imagine throwing that in a backpack and walking around with it all day. So this 3520, the Latitude 3520, this is just going to be a nice size for you, 15-inch. With Windows 11 Pro for just $499.99.
And then you maintain that full-size keyboard that you're used to with that 17-inch laptop. And as you mentioned, all of these laptops, outside of that Chromebook that we mentioned earlier, all of these laptops come with Windows 11 Pro, which is so important because we are coming up on the end of life for Windows 10.
Yes, we are past the month on it. So October 14th is when Windows 10 support is going to be dropped. And, it's not like your computer is just going to stop working on you. If you've gone through the paces with Windows XP or Windows 7 when those supports were dropped, it's not like the computer is just going to say like Jurassic Park. It's not gonna hit you with that. But the main thing you're going to be missing out on with Windows 10 dropping support are the security updates,
which are so important.
They are
important if you're doing online, especially things like online banking and things like that. You're going to lose that privacy that you have on a lot of those different kinds of processes.
All Windows computers, they come with a built-in antivirus called Windows Defender. So I've had customers come before saying, I need an antivirus on my computer. I don't want Avast or McAfee. Those are the big names in antivirus. But Windows comes actually with its own built-in antivirus that is good for 99% of users. I've only really suggested further antivirus if there is just you have a security concern you want just covered. The Malwarebytes is really good for that, for their cost. But also like businesses, for example. Businesses, you just need that extra layer of security because running a business, if anybody's listening to this who is running their business, there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to try to get you. And that your computer is going to be your weakest link that if it isn't taken care of, you're at risk. And that especially goes with just the internet. With Windows XP and Windows 7, for example, they have been out of service so long that those systems, when they get connected to the internet, if there's somebody that's snooping around for one, they can find it pretty quickly, and they can do some pretty devastating stuff to the system. So all of these, like Greg said, are Windows 11 Pro machines, and those are going to keep you good for the next 6 to 8 years, if not more. We don't even know what's going to happen from Windows 11 from here.
Windows doesn't know what's going to happen with Windows 11.
Exactly.
Yet.
10 was supposed to be the last numbered Windows. It was supposed to be, kind of how Microsoft called it was the last Windows. And then they threw Windows 11 out there. So even Microsoft, they're trying to get stuff together. So let me go into some of the desktops now. We've got some really good desktops right now for sale, like our Dell Optiplex 7070 Micro. So this is a really good micro PC. Really small. If you're familiar or know, if you've seen a Mac Mini before, it's the size of one of those. It's smaller than, I would say, the dimensions of a piece of paper. Smaller than 8.5 by 11. So this micro PC, it's got an i5 9th generation processor in it. It's a Windows 11 Pro system for just $219.99. And this system is going to be great for just your basic use where you need a computer, but you don't need it to do a lot. You need Windows, but you don't need it to launch the next shuttle into space. So this micro right here, I've sold tons of these to businesses before, restaurants for like their front POS systems, for example. So something that you can just kind of stick underneath a desk and it just hides away. Nobody knows where it is, so they can't mess with it to begin with. I've sold it to businesses before where they're running industrial equipment. They need just a little computer there that can run a program for, say, a CNC machine, for example. This is something's good that's just for hooking up like that and just sending out commands. So the Dell Optiplex 7070 Micro, that's just $219.99.
As far as gaming, it's good for wordscapes like Dave plays.
Exactly.
Maybe not for Call of Duty.
Yeah, you're probably going to be looking at some good Candy Crush out of this one, but you're not looking at anything fantastic out of it. But the micro PCs, the size that they are, when you look at the size of them, you're already going to be amazed of what they're capable of doing. So for the size this thing is, it's definitely going to be a good system for just something like that. So maybe you need a good home replacement system. There's a lot of users out there right now that have Windows 10 computers that cannot go to 11. A lot of our listeners probably right now, if you've got a Windows 10 computer and you don't know if it goes to Windows 11, if you give us a call, 407-478-8200, you can ask for myself or just any one of our technicians who pick up the phone can help you. We'll walk you through just finding the area real quick that will give us the immediate information for us to know, can it support Windows 11, or is it time to start considering an upgrade? So this system I'm talking about here is going to be the Dell Optiplex 5070. It's a nice i7 system with 16 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. So this is just going to be just a nice, fantastic replacement computer for your desktop, and we've got that for $349.99 right now. And this system alone, for that $350 price, you couldn't find something at a big box store that you're going to be able to directly replace with, get it hooked up and just going easily. A lot of the systems from the big box stores, they add a lot of bloatware to their systems too, so when you do start them up sometimes, they take quite a bit. So the install of Windows we put on all of our systems, we make it as bare bones as possible. We take away all that bloat. We just don't want to hassle you. We don't want to hassle anybody with, this or that. You have to set up this account. You got to put in this information. We just kind of get it ready for you so that when you buy it, you take it home, you hook it up, you're good to go. And even more so on that, we also offer data transfers. We offer doing full system clones. So any of your data from an old system, we can most likely move it to the new one for you.
And that's so important. It can be so easy to forget that there are these files that you have saved somewhere. Maybe they're not in your usual spot where you'd save that type of file. If you get that clone done, you can still have access to those files instead of completely losing them.
Exactly. Yeah. The clone is nice because you get everything one-to-one. It's like you're using your old computer just in the new hardware on the new computers. So I always push for clones for a lot of my customers because that is what's going to make it easiest for you at the end of the day, because you don't have to worry about logging into your bank account again, remembering your passwords, reinstalling the programs you had on there, remembering what programs you had installed on there. So yeah, we try to make just as easy as it can be when you come in for one of these machines. We lay it out for you honestly just in front of you so you know what you can expect. So, talking about easy systems, we've also got a nice Dell Optiplex 5490. So that's going to be an all-in-one system. It's a 24-inch all-in-one system, so a nice, large 24-inch screen. This is a 10th generation system, so not too old at all. And the thing I like with these all-in-one systems is you don't have to worry about the connections on it. There are 4 or 5 different plugs right now that are used for monitor connections, and the systems right now that are coming out all generally only have 1 to 2 max of that standard. And a lot of monitors are still using the large blue plug called VGA, and systems just aren't being developed with that anymore. So when you're buying a system, then you got to think about, what connection does my monitor use? Do I have to get an adapter cable? Well, what adapter cable? There's some that look super similar as well, so you could also mistake what you're looking at. So this nice 5490 all-in-one system, it just takes that stress out of it. You plug in a keyboard, you plug in a mouse, you plug in your internet, you're good to go. That's it. So we've got this system right now for just $449.99, and for that all-in-one kind of package deal of the computer being inside the screen, I think that's the best bang for your buck you can get if you just want something easy.
And all those accessories that Adam just mentioned, the keyboard, the mouse, you can get those wirelessly or wired. They're all available at the Refresh Computer Superstore. They've got a whole wall of all those accessories that you could possibly ever need. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO, 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO, 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm here with Adam Littlefield, technician at the Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. You can also check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to Adam.
Thank you, Greg. And again, thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of Tech Talk here with Refresh Computers. If you missed anything from our previous segments today, we were talking a bunch about Intel, Google with their current class action lawsuit that they just lost. If you're interested in listening to any of that, go to our website, refreshcomputers.net, click that podcast link at the top, and you can listen to any of our podcasts in their entirety, ad-free, so about 40-ish minutes of content. And you can listen to shows going back, a couple years now, I think. A lot of shows on there.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, so this is going to be our business spotlight, where if you're a listener to our show, this is where we like to give just a shout out to all the businesses that have done business with Refresh Computers in the past week. We get hundreds of them coming through every week, and we try to give a focus to as many as we can at this end segment here. So let me start off with Power Technologies. Marcus over there, he had us upgrade one of their systems with a 2 terabyte drive, and we cloned all of the information over from their source drive on that computer to that 2 terabytes. So they didn't lose anything. It wasn't like he started over. Everything was just moved over for him. We got that turned around same day as well. So he was very happy about that. We had Irvin B. Green and Associates. They had us assemble a custom machine for them. I believe that was for something in their office they were needing a lot of graphic processing power for. So we were able to get something assembled for them. So we got that nice and tied up for them with a bow. We also had Market Apparel, LLC. They purchased a bunch of different accessory cables from us, just all miscellaneous ones. And, one of the main things that they purchased was a couple of USB-C hubs. So we do have those that expand to, different USB ports, puts HDMI output. USB-C, it's very versatile. So we try to have something there that can just kind of do everything with one plug. We also had Longwood Hills Church. They purchased a Ethernet adapter card from us to get installed to one of their desktops. I think they actually there was a recent lightning storm that the lightning went up the Ethernet cable and fried it on the computer itself, so they needed a card just to supplement that computer for a little bit. So we were happy to get that installed for them. We also had Impressive Colors, LLC. They purchased one of our Dell Latitude 7320 systems and got a 3-year extended warranty on it as well. We also had Florida Cardiology. They came by and purchased 7 of our Dell Optiplex 5070 systems. So I think they're starting to turn and get all of their systems kind of moving up. So good for them to get those running finally on Windows 11.
Yeah, I'm about to say, like we mentioned, Windows 11, you've got to get that move coming up soon if you haven't already started
especially if you're a business. Right. We also had CEU Institute. They purchased 9 of our Dell Optiplex 5060 systems, and they also purchased a couple adapter cables for the monitors. I believe they were a bunch of DisplayPort to VGA adapters. So like I was mentioning earlier, that blue VGA plug, we do have adapters for that, and just any other adapters you can really think of for monitors. So if there's something not hooking up, you can give us a call, and more than likely we'll have the cable you need. We also had Armour Hill and Company, Inc. They purchased one of our 4 terabyte external USB hard drives, so I think they're using that for a external backup now with a cloud backup. So they're being a little redundant with it, and that's a good thing as far as data backups go for a business. We also had Orlando Rubber Stamps. They came by and purchased one of our Optiplex 5040 systems and had us transfer just some simple data for them, some documents, some pictures, just everything that needed to be moved over. They didn't need to do a full clone for their stuff, so it was something that we were able to get done very, very quickly. And we also had Minuteman Press Longwood. They came by and purchased a power supply for one of their systems. came in. We tested it for him. It did not pass the test, so we found one that had actually a specific older style connector called Molex on it that he didn't even think we would have, but we did have one there. So happy we could get that out to him, because that breathed some more life into a system that otherwise was just going to have to be written off. The power supplies for that was pretty rough. So, well, I think that is all the time we have for today. So again, if you missed any parts of this podcast, go ahead to our website, refreshcomputers.net, click that podcast link. You've also got our whole inventory there that you can come by and see in the store. Our store hours are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're located at 820 East State Road, 434, over in Longwood. You'll be hearing from us again next week with another interesting topic as well.